Yeah, we already finished with the JavaScript. Yeah. Last week we finished the JavaScript section. We learned how to make a JavaScript, and then we learn how to debug. And yeah, that's a very basic JavaScript. In this section, we are going to learn about one of the file type when you are doing with the information system, especially in the web. You need to understand the XML and JSON. So in this section, it is quite long. So we will learn about the XML and JSON. We call XML. Here we call JSON. So we are going to learn the concept and then how we use the Django REST framework. And then we are going to use some kind of libraries in Python and how we deal with Ajax. Okay, so there's one information system tool that is connected with JavaScript. We call it Ajax. So what we are going to learn in this PowerPoint is, you will learn about the introduction of XML and JSON. What is XML? What is JSON? Okay. And then what is the current trend of XML and JSON? And the comparison between the two. And we are going to learn how to write and read. And after we know the basic idea of XML and JSON, we are going to apply it into the Django. And when we apply to Django, we need to use a kind of framework. So this framework, we call it the Django REST framework. We will learn what is API. Maybe some of you, if you're familiar with the web, you will know what is API. Here we will learn what is API, and then what is DRF, Django REST framework, and what is the advantage of using this DRF. And then I will show you how we can develop one simple DRF. And we are going to learn about the Ajax, asynchronous JavaScript, and XML. So nowadays there are many web technology, they use Ajax, but of course it's already advanced technology. So we are going to learn about the basic one. What is Ajax, and then what is fit parser? There's one library that we can use for the connection of Ajax and XML. And we are going to learn about the JSON and Ajax, and we are going to learn about the RF and Ajax. When we learn about XML and JSON, actually, the basic idea is from database. Database frequently fails to operate synchronously when there is a data exchange in the web. So the keyword is data exchange. When we are going to exchange some data in the web, database cannot operate in real time. HTML, you learn HTML, but it is a way to show the documents, okay, not the data. There is a need to use software and hardware independent tool for storing and transporting data in the web. So let's say if you are doing with the database, you may use Excel. Maybe you need to use Microsoft Access, or you need to install Microsoft SQL, or you will use like MySQL server. So those kind of things are related to software. But in the web, it should be free from those kind of software. That's why people try to propose the format. They call it XML. it is from the extensible markup language, which was generated based on the text HTML. So you can see the markup language. And then we just put the extensible. So it is the extension, or this is the expansion of the markup language. And the development of the JavaScript, we learn about the JavaScript. The development of JavaScript is getting more attention, and we can create what we call as JSON. So JSON is JavaScript object notation. So we will learn those two because now it is important to understand those two key ideas. XML, what is XML? XML is a data format, extensible markup language. XML is a way of structuring data, and XML is a data format. If you want to take a look on the specification, you can go to this web link, www.w3.org. They have specific structure for describing XML. And if you want to learn about the schema specification, this website also provides the standards for XML schema. What is JSON? JSON is a JavaScript object notation. As we learn about the JavaScript, JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language. We can create object, and from that object, we can create the object notation. JSON is a way of structuring data. So the XML, JSON, they are similar, but the structure is different. JSON is also a data format. We can use JSON or we can use XML to make kind of data exchange format. So the specification of JSON, you can see in this IETF. And there are some websites that are dedicated to explain about the JSON schema. So one of them is this one. You can have the JSON schema, or you can also see the JSON schema validation. I will not discuss all the details, so we will just learn all the basic in this class. If you want to know more, you can go to the website. But what we are going to learn here is only the basic concept and what is the example of the XML and JSON. I took this one in Google Trends. So there's one paper, they try to do the survey. What is the trend in the web, especially if you are dealing with the XML and JSON? So the trend of JSON is increasing. We can see the trend, and this is based on the question in Stack Overflow. If you are the programmer, you will know what is a Stack Overflow, and many people give question and answers. And based on the statistics, the questions related to JSON are increasing. The question related to XML is quite decreasing. So people try to learn more about JSON. The other kind of mechanism like CSV, you can see. Okay, people try to figure out how they can develop or make a CSV file, because CSV file is also useful for data analytics. But SOAP, this is a kind of web service. In some years ago, SOAP is kind of popular, but not so many people have interest on this SOAP. And you can see based on these statistics, it seems it is worth to learn JSON and XML. XML has been widely used. If you look at some kind of news portal, yeah, they use XML or they use JSON for their feed news. We call it feed news, yeah, or news feed, because they always post their news and they put a kind of format for posting to the worldwide. So, for example, I think you know ESPN. ESPN is a international channel, television channel for sport. So they have very specific information like the NFL, Football League, and NBA, MLB, NHL, motorsports. They have separate section. And if you are a very enthusiasm on sports, if you want to see like the NBA, then you can get this NBA news, and this news feed will be updated every maybe minutes or hour. So let's see if I want to see the ESPN news story. So this is the ESPN news feed. You can see on the left panel, this is the ESPN news feed, and every of the news will appear. Let's say this one. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the sports, but yeah, you can see that this is the latest news. This has been published in 2 p.m. JST. I think Japan Standard Time. The Japan Standard Time is similar with Korea. So you can see a lot of messages that you can look at. And if you are using the XML, people usually try to figure out the in this top in this bottom point, you can see the news feed. Let's say if you want to see the NBA headline. So if you check on the news feed, now you will see this kind of XML. This XML file does not appear to have any style information associated with it. So the document tree is shown below. So it is the format of XML. If you can see here, yeah, we have the title, and then we can see the language. The language is EN, so it is English, and so on. Okay. And what we can learn from the first article that I show you, this one, James Harden isn't what he used to be, but he's what the Sixers need. So if you check on this ESPN news, this one, James Harden isn't what he used to be, but he's what the Sixers need. So this is the title of the news. And maybe this is the link of the news. If you copy and paste, let's say, I will copy and paste this one. And then yeah, I will go this, and this is the news. So every of the news, if it is updated on newsfeed, it will be located into the XML file. And people can use this XML file for their website. And people can use this information. Let's say if I'm a company, and if my company is correlated with basketball, and I want to get any news updated from this NBA, Then I can just use this link, and then I can post any news related to the NBA to my website. So this is the XML style. So we will learn more later. What about JSON? Is it popular? Yes. There is one company, they call it Mapbox. They try to figure out the Twitter user. Let me check. So they try to map the Twitter user based on the countries. I'm not sure if I think they do not share the JSON. This is the way to consume the streaming data from Twitter. So if you know how to connect Twitter, and if you have Twitter, you can apply the key, and then, okay, this is the Twitter JSON using the JSON stream in Java. But actually, yeah, you can apply how we can get the data from Twitter in the JSON format. And after we have the JSON format, I think there is no such data here now, but you can see this second link. In the second link, so it is based on the JSON. They try to locate the user of Twitter based on the smartphone type. For example, if you are the Android user, then it will be in the green color. So if you want to check in the world how many users who use Twitter are the Android users. So this kind of mechanism, you can transport or you can exchange this data in the JSON. So they have the JSON format and we can use it. I think now it's not free. Okay. So yeah, based on the JSON, you can put your data in the web, something like this one. So I'm going to teach you the very basic one. If you see the complex XML in the newsfeed, now I want to teach you what is XML and how we can make it in our environment. The below is XML document contains data about a book. Let's say we have a database about a book, and as a book, I know the title, I know the authors, I know the date of publication, and I know the publisher. So at least we have 4 attributes. In the column base, you can make something like this. The title, maybe parsing techniques. Author 1. So some books have several authors. Author 2. Maybe if you want to put author 3, yeah, it is possible, but when the number of columns is huge, yeah, it will also make you have more effort to deal with the parsing. And date, when is the publication date, and then the publisher. When you have this kind of table, you can convert it into this type of XML. We call this is XML. We have one book, and we have one title. What is the title? The title is parsing technique. And we have a collection of authors. Who are the authors? The first author is Dick Grun, and the second author is Cyril J.H. Jacobs. So it is the same with this one. And the date, publication date is 2007, and the publisher is Springer. So if you see this one, it is similar with the HTML, but in the HTML, you always have the tag. Okay. What is the tag in the HTML? They already defined the tag. HTML tag, and then you will do closing with /HTML. And in between this HTML, you will have title, head, and you will have body. Okay. So if you take a look on this one, you need to remember all the tag in HTML. And maybe you will need P as paragraph. You will need division, or you need to make img, which is for image, or you need to make a href for link. Okay. In HTML, they have their specific tag. But what about XML? In XML, you need to have also the tag, but the tag is free. It means you can design your own tag. Let's say I know that this is a book. So you will create book. And you will use the triangle bracket. You can make a collection of book. And a collection of book is in between the tag book. And then you can specify what are the attributes names. The attributes name, we have the first attribute is title. Then you can have title. And for every attribute, don't forget to put the ending of the tag. Title. Authors. Let's say you have many authors. Okay? And in the authors, if you have many authors, you can specify the first author. And then don't forget to close. And I have another author. And after I put the name, I will close it again. So the tag information is related with the attribute name. The idea is similar with HTML, but it is more freedom. What about JSON? Actually, when you have the data, you can use XML and you can use JSON. If you use JSON, the data will be something like this one. With the same table, like what we learned about the title, author 1, author 2, date, and publisher, we can have the JSON like this one. What does it mean? Okay, I have book. First, I need to start with the curly bracket. I need to start with a curly bracket. And then, for every curly bracket, you need to give ending. Now, I would like to define the name of this JSON. So, I want to specify about books. Now, I have books, and then you will give colon. If you understand Python, you will know that this is similar what we call the dictionary in Python. They call it, this is dictionary in Python. Or in JavaScript, they also have another kind of terminology. They call it as test. Now you can take a look. This one is the key, and then it has a separator, which is colon, to represent value. The key represents what is the object. If I want to define book, then yeah, the name is book. And then I have the first book. The first book is located in the first scope of the curly bracket, and then the first scope contains of the attribute of the book. In this case, the title. What is the title? Oh, the title is parsing techniques. So the key is title, and then the value is parsing techniques, and it is separated by the column. Authors. If there are several authors, then it will be separated with column, and we will make a kind of array. So the authors have several persons, or there are more than one people. Because there are more than one person, then we will need to create an array. The date, okay, in this case, I think the year, okay, 2007, and then publisher. Okay, we can see this one. And for every data, we will split with comma, comma, comma. And at the end, yeah, we can just leave it. So in this case, we have one book. So if I put the XML and the JSON side by side, you can see that they are totally similar. Okay. In the book tag in the XML, it is the same with the book key in the JavaScript or in the JSON. If we have title, yeah, it is like complying with the title in the JSON. So all of them are the same, but only the format is different. For the authors, again, the definition is a little bit different, because in JSON, we use array to represent multiple authors. So if you have multiple values in one attribute, yeah, you can use array. But what about XML? In XML, there is no array. So you need to define one by one. And if only two, I think there is no issue. But if the element of the array are big, let's say I have 100 data, then using XML is not appropriate. Because when you have 100 authors, you need to make authors. Author as the beginning of the tag and author as the ending of the tag. Author as the beginning and author as the ending. So if you have 100, then you need to make 100 tags. That's why people think that, okay, JSON is much more interesting. It's easier and it is understandable. However, yeah, some of the websites, they still use XML, because XML is easy to connect with the HTML. So that's why there are some pros and cons between these two technologies. Even though XML is quite old, but still many websites use XML. But if you are doing with the machine learning, or if you are doing with the AI stuff, I guess many people are doing with JSON. So I would like to teach you how we can do with the XML and JSON in Python. So let's make a new Django project, basic REST. And then I will create a new folder name, testing data. And then let's make these 4 files. So we are going to learn how to write XML, how to read XML, how to write JSON, and how to read JSON. Okay. Let me close this one. And I will make a new project. Don't forget, when you make a new project, you need to make a new Django project. Everything is fine. I will just, oh, why I make the Django project. Okay, yeah, I will use this name, Django project, no problem. Maybe for avoid the confusion. Sorry, I will make one more time. Basic REST. Okay. So I have for py. Okay, py means Python file. So before I'm creating those py, let's make a new folder, testing data. You can make a new folder and then you can make a Python module or Python package, okay? Because we are going to make a Python file. The name, yeah, you can arrange your name, but I will just follow my own PowerPoint, testing data. If you are creating a Python module or Python function here, you can see there is a new like constructor. Okay? So this is the constructor. Whenever you want to call this folder, yeah, it will create a kind of instance. So let's make a Python file using PyDev module, and the first is writing XML. I will make a Python module or Python file, and then I will type writing XML. There are other files like reading XML, writing JSON, reading JSON. Okay, we will do one by one. So let's copy and paste this one. I will explain to you. In order to make an XML3, you need to call one function from XML.e3 element 3. And I just write et to make it short. Now you will see this code. It's quite long. It's not that long, but let's see one by one. In the first, we have root. And in the root, the name of the element tree is books. Now I can say we have books. You can start with triangle bracket and then stop with triangle bracket. When you have this kind of element, it means you will have also the ending with books. And I'm going to create a new sub element. You can see here root like is the parent, and then book is the child. Then I will make another element which is book, and then I can make a close statement with books. Now I have my first data. My first data, the element tree of sub element book. What is sub element book? Sub element book is this one. So when I have a book, I will like to put this sub element, and the sub element name is title, and this title is inside this book. So I have title, and then I have in this case the book title is Python, and then there are several authors. So the sub element book dot authors, there are several authors, and then we have the third one which is date. So we will make date, and we close it, and last one is publisher. And for every of these data, you can see the value of the title is Python. And you can put the data is in between the text. And then authors. Now you can see the authors is separated into one variable. And we have in the line 12, et sub element authors, comma author, the text will be John. And there will be author, and then we have John. And we have another author, which is Bob. It's not John, but this is author. Okay. Now the schema will be something like this one, even though the code is not in the sequence. It will create the author first, but the detail of the authors are located here. And then the same with the data 2. Yeah, we have the title, author, date, publisher, and then we have two authors here. And the same with the data 3 and so on. So let's say if I'm going to write this one, so I can do, you can right click and then run writing XML. So when you run this XML, you will see there is one XML file. It is a newly generated file. And if you double click this, the data is going to horizontal. So you can do something, you can right click, and I guess or you can go here. Reformat. Okay, so you can see there is an option reformat, and you will see the structure like a tree. Okay. And it will be easier for us to understand this tree. Okay, I guess it's the time. So I will stop here and we will continue again tomorrow.